Impossible places. Wonders our planet cannot afford to lose. A 300-million-year plateau shelters 1,500 species, many found nowhere else. Across 30 places, hidden work decides whether that inheritance reaches another generation. Protection rarely appears in the postcard. Rangers hold a boundary. Stone terraces grip a cliff. Wind towers pull hot air from packed homes. Research teams track retreating ice and fading coral. These places endure because people treat rock, water, wildlife, and inherited craft as more than scenery. I want to understand which protections hold when heat, crowds, and neglect close in. In this video, we explore how Earth's most improbable wonders can remain a living inheritance rather than a record of what slipped away. A desert here is being built by the sea. About 100 kilometers off Africa, waves deliver shell and marine fragments. Then northeasterly trade winds drive that pale sand inland. Fuerteventura is one of the Canary Islands' oldest volcanic bodies, its ridges worn down from eruptions that began millions of years ago. Yet Coralejo's dunes are young and mobile. Storms strip exposed crests, wind rebuilds ripples, and the outline changes again. This is not a fixed desert beside the Atlantic. It is a working exchange between seabed material, surf, air, and dry land. The same wind powers windsurfing and kite surfing. The dry climate shaped Majorero goat herding and settlements constrained by scarce water. Modern pressure creates a different boundary. Roads, resort construction, heavy foot traffic, and damaged vegetation can block the sand's natural passage. In 2009, UNESCO designated the whole island a biosphere reserve, joining volcanic badlands, dunes, tidal zones, and surrounding seas. Conservation here cannot mean freezing a dune in place. It means leaving enough room for wind and sand to keep moving. Fuerteventura sets the terms of this journey: record change, limit obstruction, and leave wind and sand free to move. Living inheritance is motion, given room to continue. A sacred route climbs a granite wall that offers almost nowhere to stand. South Peak rises about 2,100 meters. 5 main summits are linked by stairs, ledges, ladders, and rock-cut passes. For centuries, pilgrims climbed to Taoist temples and shrines, often before dawn. The mountain dictated every step. The exposed plank walk carries the fame, but it is only one section of a much larger piece of inherited mountain infrastructure. Stoneworkers carved stairs where the slope gave them none. Porters hauled timber and iron upward. Crews fixed boards, chains, anchors, and retaining walls against vertical rock. That labor did more than open a path. It kept worship alive on 5 granite summits, traditionally understood as the petals of a flower. Cable cars now shorten parts of the ascent. The historic routes still preserve the old terms of passage: slow, steep, and controlled by the mountain. Rain, ice, temperature shifts, and constant foot traffic grind stone and strain metal fittings. Inspection and replacement are not background tasks. They are what keep the route continuous. Huashan's wonder is not the cliff alone, but the crews and keepers who hold its route intact. Every repaired step carries their work into another generation. One of the world's richest concentrations of plant life occupies a summit often treated as a viewing platform. About 1,000 meters above Cape Town, Table Mountain supports more than 1,500 plant species, many found nowhere else. Its sandstone top rests above older granite. Hundreds of millions of years of uplift and erosion left this remnant over the city. Moist Atlantic air rises and condenses into the tablecloth cloud, driving mist, wind, and sharp temperature changes across the plateau. Those sharp shifts sustain fynbos, a low shrubland adapted to poor soil and seasonal drought. Survival here depends on the timing of fire. Fire at suitable intervals returns nutrients and starts regeneration. If it comes too often, slow-growing species cannot recover. Invasive trees and shrubs add another load. They consume water and alter the fire cycle. Conservation crews must clear them repeatedly, not once. The cableway has operated since 1929, while numerous hiking routes bring visitors directly into this botanical archive. Protection means managing access, invasive plants, wildfire, and climatic pressure across a small, isolated plateau, not merely guarding the skyline. The cableway can fill the summit in minutes. Fynbos recovery is measured in fire cycles and generations. The Amalfi Coast's famous cliffside landscape is held in place by walls that farmers must keep rebuilding. For generations, dry stone terraces have turned near vertical limestone above the Tyrrhenian Sea into narrow strips of workable ground. Amalfi, Positano, Ravello, and Atrani occupy valleys and cliff ledges once linked more easily by boat than by road. Harbors, watchtowers, churches, and tight lanes preserve the coast's medieval seaborne economy. The stronger proof of adaptation lies above the towns. Sfusato Amalfitano lemons grow beneath pole-supported pergolas that shield fruit from wind and make steep ground usable. Tractors cannot master these slopes. Soil, tools, baskets, and lemons still move along stairs and narrow paths, demanding skilled hands and endurance. The terraces also slow runoff and brace the limestone during heavy rain. When cultivation stops, drainage clogs, vegetation shifts, and walls can fail, increasing pressure on the settlements below. Tourism brings money, yet heavy visitation and development compete with the resident communities that maintain orchards, paths, and stonework. The UNESCO-listed coast survives as a working landscape, not a finished monument. The terraces are engineering, stone, local knowledge, and repair repeated season after season. The coast holds while skilled hands still climb, reset fallen stone, and return to the orchards. The clearest evidence that whales once carried the anatomy of land mammals now lies exposed in an Egyptian desert. Around 40 million years ago, This ground was a warm, shallow arm of the Tethys Sea. Today it stands roughly 150 kilometers southwest of Cairo. Sediment gathered around whales, sharks, rays, and turtles before tectonic change and falling seas left those layers inland. Wind then stripped the rock and began revealing an ancient marine record across Wadi al-Hitan. Basilosaurus stretched to about 20 meters, yet its most important parts are small: hind limbs, feet, and toes. Too reduced for walking, they preserve the link between land ancestry and fully aquatic movement. Skulls, ears, spines, and limbs record different stages of that transition. But the surrounding sediment matters just as much, fixing each skeleton to an age, habitat, and community of species. Erosion keeps opening the archive, but exposure also weakens it. A vehicle track, a removed bone, or careless handling can erase the position that gives a fossil scientific meaning. Protection, therefore, cannot stop at guarding spectacular skeletons. UNESCO recognition covers an evolutionary record still emerging from rock, where careful protection and patient research must outlast curiosity and collection. Wadi al-Hitan reaches the future intact only when each bone and its exact layer remain together. Ice can fracture in seconds. Patagonia's larger change appears only through decades of measurement. Los Glaciares protects more than 7,000 square kilometers and part of the southern Patagonian ice field, the largest temperate ice mass in the southern hemisphere. Snow compresses at high elevation and feeds glaciers that descend toward Lakes Argentino and Viedma. Its glaciers connect mountains, forest, and steppe in one protected landscape. Perito Moreno behaves differently from several neighbors. Its front has remained comparatively stable, sometimes advancing across a narrow arm of Lake Argentino and sealing the water behind an ice dam. Pressure forces a tunnel through the dam. The opening widens into an arch until the structure gives way, sending ice into the lake in one of the park's most dramatic cycles. That spectacle alone does not prove climate change. The stronger evidence comes from repeated measurements of glacier length, thickness, mass, and the ice field's extent over time. Those records reveal substantial retreat among neighboring glaciers, including Uppsala, even while Perito Moreno holds an unusual balance. Farther north, Fitzroy and Cerro Torre anchor a long mountaineering history above the same connected landscape. This inheritance survives when each rupture joins the long record of a shrinking ice field. The famous turquoise lakes exist partly because logging was stopped before the surrounding forest was cleared. In 1975, advocacy helped halt logging in the valley. UNESCO recognition followed in 1992. The name means 9-village valley, linking the celebrated lakes to 9 Tibetan settlements in a landscape inhabited long before global recognition. Water passes through carbonate-rich rock and carries dissolved minerals into a chain of lakes and streams. Travertine gathers around roots, algae, fallen branches, and natural barriers, building rims that hold one level above another. Pale mineral beds scatter light into turquoise, blue, and green, while clear water exposes submerged trunks far below. The color depends on forest, rock, water, and living organisms remaining connected. Forest cover slows runoff and grips the steep slopes. Remove enough trees, and the water, soil, and fragile carbonate dams face heavier pressure. The earthquake of 2017 proved how quickly that balance can shift. Waterways moved, travertine barriers were damaged, and some famous features emptied or changed shape. Recovery required restraint, restore access, then give damaged waterways room to recover naturally. The turquoise is evidence that protection began in time, not a spectacle guaranteed to return. Millions of years of isolation created Socotra's strangest trees, yet isolation can no longer shield them. More than a third of the archipelago's plant species occur nowhere else, while storms, grazing, roads, and expanding settlements now press into their habitat. The dragon's blood tree carries the argument in its shape. Its wide, inverted crown shades the roots and catches moisture from mist in a hard, exposed climate. Red resin once moved through Indian Ocean trade as pigment, medicine, incense, and varnish. Hawk cave inscriptions left by visiting sailors preserve those roots. But an old tree can dominate the horizon while hiding a weak future below. Young trees regenerate slowly, and grazing, prolonged drought, and changing land use can stop replacement. Powerful cyclones can break mature crowns and strip vegetation. Recovery on Socotra is slow. New roads and settlement growth divide habitats that once remained connected. Protection cannot come from a distant boundary alone. Socotri herders and village communities hold practical knowledge of water, grazing, resin, and seasonal change, the knowledge needed to set limits that fit the land. UNESCO recognized the archipelago in 2008. The decisive image now is not an old dragon's blood crown against the sky, but a seedling surviving beneath it. A cave passage broad and high enough to contain large buildings remained outside modern maps until the 21st century. Resident Huashan located Son Doong, and in 2009, a British-Vietnamese team surveyed it within a park, holding more than 300 documented caves and grottos. The map begins in rock, formed in ancient seas hundreds of millions of years ago. Uplift, fractures, rainwater, and underground rivers then cut sinkholes, shafts, dry chambers, and active streams. Where sections of the ceiling have collapsed, sunlight reaches the floor and supports patches of forest inside the cave. Mist and rivers create distinct underground habitats. None of this is mapped in a single expedition. Survey teams use ropes, swim flooded sections, take laser measurements, and return across seasons when water levels permit. Even then, unexplored branches can remain beyond submerged passages or unstable rock. Each expedition extends the record, but also reveals how incomplete that record still is. Modern surveying is only one layer of knowledge here. 9th century Champa inscriptions in Phong Na Cave show that people understood and marked this underground landscape long before modern instruments arrived. Restricted access limits damage while research continues. Every new line on the map adds another place that must remain intact. Flames have crossed the Karakum night for more than half a century, fed by a fire expected to last only days. About 260 kilometers north of Ashgabat, the crater spans roughly 65 meters and drops around 30. A familiar account blames a Soviet drilling collapse around 1971, then an attempt to burn off leaking gas. Sparse records leave that sequence uncertain. The mechanism is clear. Gas rises through fractured ground, meets oxygen, and burns across many vents rather than from one central flame. Its endurance turned a gas leak into Turkmenistan's best-known landmark. But each vent also marks usable fuel being lost and greenhouse gases entering the atmosphere. Heat, unstable margins, and toxic combustion products make close access hazardous. Authorities have repeatedly discussed controlling or extinguishing the fire because spectacle cannot erase cost. Recent observations show lower, less extensive flames. A shrinking gas supply or intervention around the field may explain the change, but the landmark is visibly weakening. That reversal matters. Darvaza seemed permanent after outlasting the expectation of days. Recording its decline matters as much as recording its long blaze. If the flames disappear, the crater should remain as honest evidence of uncertain origins, wasted fuel, and a landmark that was never permanent. A city built over water now survives by shutting the sea out. Venice spreads across 118 lagoon islands, joined by more than 400 bridges and threaded by around 170 canals that long served as streets. Much of the historic city rests on timber piles driven into waterlogged sediment. Low oxygen slows decay below, while stone and brick carry the weight above. Gothic facades also retain Byzantine and Islamic traces of maritime trade. Now, high tides, storm surges, subsidence, and rising sea level push water farther into low ground. Repeated flooding drives salt into masonry, where evaporation and crystallization break it apart. Since 2020, the Meuse barriers have been raised against major tides, temporarily separating the lagoon from the Adriatic. That defense buys time, not independence. Every closure requires careful timing and maintenance. Prolonged closure puts lagoon ecology and port activity under new pressure, so one defense creates another limit. Roughly 50,000 residents remain in the historic center as intense tourism bears down on a much smaller living city. Buildings alone cannot keep Venetian knowledge alive. Acqua Alta is the city's hard warning. Barriers can hold back a tide, but only maintained masonry, channels, and local knowledge can keep Venice alive between closures. The ice that carved Aurlandsfjord vanished long ago, but the cut it left still dictates where roads, farms, and settlements can fit. The fjord runs about 29 kilometers inland. Beneath its narrow surface, water approaches a kilometer deep, while mountain walls rise more than a kilometer overhead. Pleistocene glaciers widened and deepened an older valley. rock locked in moving ice ground out a U-shaped trough below today's sea level. When the ice withdrew, ocean water filled the cut. Smaller side glaciers carved less deeply, leaving hanging valleys where waterfalls now descend. That geometry left little level ground. Farms and settlements took hold on rare shelves, river fans, and gentler ground near Flom and Arlandsvangen. Before roads and tunnels, boats carried people, animals, timber, and goods through the only practical corridor. The fjord was not scenery around these communities, it was their working route. The Flom Railway, ferries, road tunnels, and cruise ships have changed how people move, not the cliff-bound limits. Snowmelt, rockfall, avalanches, and seasonal runoff still dictate access. Protecting Arlandsfjord means limiting pressure on its slopes, water, and settled ledges while keeping local roots and knowledge alive. The U-shaped rock walls cannot be rebuilt. Kept intact, they carry the record of vanished ice into another generation. A village can keep its walls standing and still lose the inheritance held inside them. On the Karkas slopes, Abyane's red earth houses survive beside a local Iranian language carried by an aging permanent population. Iron in the soil gives the walls their red and ochre color. Thick earth tempers summer heat and winter cold. Narrow lanes hold shade and cut the wind. The slope forced homes into tiers, where one roof becomes the path or working terrace above. Timber frames and projecting windows pull usable space from tight ground. At the Friday Mosque, a carved wooden pulpit bears an 11th century inscription. It records nearly 1,000 years of worship, upkeep, and continued use. Abyanehi belongs to the Central Iranian language group and remains distinct from Standard Persian. Traditional clothing, ceremonies, orchards, water channels, and seasonal returns bind speech to work. Migration to cities breaks those links, while heavy visitation pushes quick repairs. Cement behaves differently from mud and timber. A hard patch can strain the older wall it was meant to secure. The measure that matters here is not attendance, but transmission. Speech, songs, building methods, and ordinary use must be recorded while they remain living practice. Abyane survives as inheritance only when its red walls and its living language are preserved together. The stone that shelters Cappadocia is also the stone that keeps breaking apart. Volcanic ash hardened into soft tuff. Then water, frost, and wind cut it into cones, ridges, and tall chimneys. Harder caps protect softer layers beneath them, but only for a time. Water enters fractures, winter freezing widens them. Exposed faces crumble. People answered that erosion with excavation. They cut homes, storerooms, dovecotes, monasteries, and churches into rock firm enough to hold large chambers when shaped with skill. Derinkuyu pushes that adaptation underground through many levels. Ventilation shafts, wells, storage rooms, spaces for animals, and rolling stone doors allowed extended shelter, though its earliest phases and exact purposes remain debated. Around Göreme, Byzantine frescoes remain on plaster inside rock-cut sanctuaries. Moisture loosens those surfaces, Erosion opens the stone, and visitor contact wears pigment that cannot simply be replaced. Today, cave hotels extend the old habit of inhabiting stone, while utilities, traffic, and heavy visitation add fresh strain. New use keeps the chambers active, yet it also presses harder on fragile stone. Protection cannot remove Cappadocia from history. It must keep the rock usable without allowing each new use to erase older cuts, paintings, and knowledge. The White Desert's most recognizable monuments are disappearing in plain sight. Across roughly 3,000 square kilometers north of Ferrofra Oasis, chalk formations keep changing under blown sand, temperature swings, fractures, and rare rain. The white ground began as marine sediment when an ancient sea covered the region. Chalk-rich in microscopic calcareous remains, was later uplifted and exposed as the climate became arid. Wind does not work alone. Sand scours lower surfaces, temperature changes open fractures, and occasional rain carries away chalk already loosened. Where a harder layer shields softer chalk, narrow stems and broad caps emerge. The mushrooms, pillars, and animal-like silhouettes seem finished, but every thin projection is temporary on a geological scale. Protection extends beyond the famous Whitefield. Dunes, escarpments, and oases support desert-adapted wildlife, so tire tracks and repeated campsites press on habitat as well as stone. Off-road vehicles cut tracks across ground that recovers slowly. Litter, climbing, and souvenir removal can chip fragile surfaces faster than weather can soften the mark. Cold nights and powerful winds also make travel across exposed terrain demanding. This is not empty land waiting for use. It is an active desert whose change must remain slower than human pressure. Its inheritance survives only when wind and weather, not visitation, set the pace of change. The force that carved Niagara is now regulated through binational agreements, control structures, and power tunnels. More than 700,000 gallons pass over the three falls each second, while Horseshoe Falls alone stretches nearly half a mile across the river. This water links the upper Great Lakes to Lake Ontario and drops across the Niagara Escarpment. After the last ice age, meltwater found this route and drove the falls steadily upstream. The river still cuts beneath hard caprock. Softer stone yields below, cracks widen, and vulnerable sections of the crest must be monitored and stabilized. That retreat once moved far faster than it does today. Engineers now distribute flow across the crest, slow erosion, and preserve the fall's recognizable form. The river, however, is no static display. Canada and the United States divide water between the visible falls and hydroelectric stations by season and time of day. Generating stations on both sides convert the same drop into electricity. Every diversion changes the visible flow and how much force reaches the gorge. The real wonder lies in that negotiation. Erosion, visible flow, and power. Generation all compete for the same current. Niagara's inheritance will be measured not by crowds, but by whether two nations keep one river powerful, productive, and intact. Lake Tahoe's famous clarity is not a permanent gift of geology. It is a result that rules and repair must keep producing. At more than 1,600 feet deep, the lake can offer visibility of about 70 feet on calm days. But suspended sediment can quickly reduce that reach. Fault movement shaped this high Sierra Nevada basin. Volcanic activity blocked an outlet, and glaciers reshaped its valleys. The surrounding granite naturally supplies relatively few nutrients. But roads, construction, and eroding slopes release fine particles that remain suspended and scatter light. Nitrogen and phosphorus feed algae, while warmer water can alter seasonal mixing. That is why protection must cross the California-Nevada line. An interstate compact created the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency to coordinate land use, wastewater controls, stormwater projects, forest management, and long-term monitoring. The Washoe people know the lake as Da'ao, with cultural ties far older than resort development. Stewardship here protects more than visibility. It protects a homeland. Secchi disk readings vary from year to year rather than tracing a simple recovery. Wildfire, shoreline development, invasive species, traffic, and recreation all feed pressure into the same watershed. Tahoe's transparency is hard evidence. Strict limits, drainage work, and patient science defend what geology began. Relax the protections, and fine sediment returns to the water long before lost clarity can be repaired. One of Earth's greatest wildlife movements survives only because it cannot be contained inside one park. More than 1 million wildebeest join hundreds of thousands of zebras and gazelles in a seasonal circuit from northern Tanzania toward Kenya. The park protects nearly 15,000 square kilometers, but its boundary does not set the schedule. Rain does. Wet season grass in the south supports mass calving. As those plains dry, the herds press west and north, following new growth and access to water. The exact timing and path change each year. At river crossings, steep banks, strong currents, and crowding compress a vast migration into narrow passages. Lions, hyenas, cheetahs, vultures, and other animals depend on different stages of this movement. Block one section, and disruption spreads from grazing herds to predators and scavengers. That is why a protected destination is not enough. Open corridors, dry season refuges, breeding grounds, and water sources must remain connected across administrative boundaries. Maasai communities retain cultural and pastoral ties to the wider landscape. Conservation must protect movement while respecting those ties and confronting roads, fencing, livestock pressure, disease, and changing rainfall. The migration reaches another generation only if the whole route stays open, with local stewardship guarding its grass and water. A mountain can become famous because the cover that hid it is retreating. Vinicunca rises above 5,000 meters in Peru's Cusco region, where declining snow and ice cover across the tropical Andes has made its striped slopes more consistently visible. The colors were not created by recent warming. They began in sedimentary beds, laid down before the modern Andes reached their present height. Tectonic uplift tilted those beds and exposed their minerals. Iron oxides mark the reds and browns. Clay, carbonate, and altered minerals carry pale, green, yellow, and grey bands. Large-scale tourism followed quickly. The journey from Cusco takes hours, then continues on foot or horseback through thin air, cold, mud, and sudden weather. That traffic has weight. Boots and hooves widen paths and grind saturated soil, while local Quechua-speaking communities manage access, horses, transport, and income on land long used to graze livestock. The contradiction is inescapable. Climate pressure helped reveal the geology, and fame now adds pressure of its own. Protecting Vinicunca means limiting erosion, supporting local management, and reading changes in snow cover honestly, not pretending warming painted the mountain. Ancient rock and recent warming meet on the same exposed slope. Whether that record endures now rests on the land's Quechua custodians and on limits that keep the trail from consuming the mountain. Roofs serve as streets in Uramantakt, steep slopes as working farmland. At Uramantakt, in Iran's Haraman region, one house's roof often serves as the path, workyard, or courtyard for the building above. This is not a scenic arrangement imposed on the mountain. It is a living structure refined across generations by Harami-speaking Kurdish communities. Local stone, timber, and earth form compact homes. Dry stone terraces grip the slope, hold soil for orchards and small fields, and stop scarce buildable ground from being wasted. Springs and channels move limited water between elevations. Narrow footpaths bind the tiers where wheels cannot easily pass. The larger design extends beyond walls. Families historically combined farming, herding, crafts, and seasonal movement, shifting between warmer and cooler grazing grounds as pasture changed. That vertical migration kept one elevation from carrying every demand through the year. The Pir Shalyar ceremony keeps memory through food, music, and collective participation. Roads bring access and services, but new construction can sever the old links among roofs, terraces, paths, and water. Preserve the shape alone, and working knowledge weakens. Each tier records adaptation rather than brute force. This inheritance survives only while Kurdish knowledge keeps stone, soil, water, and ceremony connected. The famous avenue exists because most of its forest does not. Near Morondava in Madagascar's Menabe region, around 24 Grandidier baobabs rise as high as 30 meters along an unpaved road. Their isolation creates the landmark, but it also exposes the loss. These trees once stood inside a denser dry forest, cleared over generations for farms and settlements. The survivors were not spared by chance. Local communities kept baobabs for cultural value and for useful fruit, bark, and other products. A mature trunk can endure drought and seasonal strain. Conservation, however, is decided lower down, where seedlings must survive long enough to replace the old trees. Fire, grazing, disturbed soil, and expanding rice fields can block that renewal. Changed drainage can also leave roots waterlogged, turning nearby land use into pressure on protected trunks. Protection recognizes the avenue as a natural monument. But a narrow line of old trunks cannot perform the work of a forest. Fire control, restoration planting, and water management must reach beyond the road. Community stewardship of adjacent land decides whether seedlings take root. The avenue's future is visible at ground level. Seedlings taking root in restored habitat where a forest was lost. Some of evolution's clearest living evidence survives on islands whose global fame now threatens the isolation that created it. Nearly 1,000 kilometers west of mainland Ecuador, volcanic islands of different ages hold species shaped apart from their mainland ancestors. Giant tortoise populations developed different shells and behaviors from island to island. Marine iguanas went further. They became the only living lizards that regularly graze in the sea, then expel excess salt through specialized glands. This experiment depends on moving water. Cool, nutrient-rich currents feed fish, seabirds, sea lions, and equatorial penguins, while periodic warm currents can sharply reduce food. Darwin visited in 1835. His specimens and observations later helped shape his thinking on natural selection. But the islands did not become important because one scientist interpreted them. Ecuador protects about 97% of the land as national park. Yet a boundary cannot stop rats, goats, insects, pathogens, or invasive plants brought across the ocean by people. That defense requires quarantine checks, invasive species removal, captive breeding, and the hard work of restoring tortoise populations. It also requires limits as fishing, tourism, and marine heat events strain the same food web. The island's future may be decided far from the famous animals, at a cargo inspection, on a fishing patrol, or in the recovery of a tortoise released to the wild. One of Earth's richest reef regions depends on rules written not only by scientists, but by fishing communities. Across thousands of islands off West Papua, surveys have recorded more than 550 reef-building coral species and more than 1,400 fish species. That abundance is built by connection, not by any single reef. Strong currents move larvae and nutrients. Mangroves shelter fish, and seagrass beds provide food. Steep reef walls link shallow lagoons to deeper water. Manta rays use cleaning and feeding areas, and sea turtles move between reefs and nesting beaches. The currents that sustain life also demand precise timing from fishers. Reading tides and passages is not an optional extra in conservation. It is working knowledge. Customary rights give local communities authority over coastal waters. Traditional rules can close areas or species to harvest for agreed periods, easing pressure before fishing resumes. Those rules now work beside marine protected areas, patrols, tourism controls, and scientific monitoring. None can stand alone against damaging fishing methods, poorly controlled development, plastic waste, and warming seas. Raja Ampat's future rests on more than species counts. This living inheritance survives only when residents remain managers, and sustainable fishing knowledge keeps reefs productive and diverse. Mineral water, not a falling river, keeps building Oaxaca's waterfall-shaped cliff. Over thousands of years, springs have formed pale travertine shelves, including one nearly 30-meter drop. The name Hierve el Agua means the water boils, yet heat is not the main cause. Escaping gas makes the springs bubble. Water rich in calcium carbonate reaches the edge. Carbon dioxide escapes, and calcite hardens onto the rock. The cliff keeps growing too slowly for the eye to register. More than 2,000 years ago, Zapotec communities cut channels and terraces to direct scarce spring water through difficult mountain ground. Their engineering turned a scarce flow into irrigation. The pools occupy only the top of a larger network of springs, channels, and terraces. Every diversion changes where minerals settle. Foot traffic, mineral breakage, drought, and disputes over access or tourism revenue all complicate upkeep. Local communities operate the site and sometimes restrict access. Those decisions protect both the active deposit and the water knowledge held in its channels. Its value is not the number entering the pools. It lies in keeping two works intact: the cliff built by mineral water and the Zapotec channels maintained through local stewardship. The strangest towers on Laf's skyline were not built to impress. They were built to make humid Gulf heat bearable. Their openings catch useful breezes above Keshem Island and drive air down vertical shafts, while pressure differences pull warm air back out. Thick walls, high ceilings, courtyards, and narrow alleys reduce sun exposure. The Windcatcher towers work only because the whole settlement guides heat and air. A blocked opening, broken partition, altered roofline, or failing plaster weakens the flow. Concrete replacement buildings can disrupt it further, turning climate machinery into decoration. Water demanded equal discipline. Covered cisterns and the hand-dug golden wells, traditionally counted at 366, captured rare rain on a dry island. The harbor tied Laft to communities around the Persian Gulf. Nearby Hara mangroves support fishing grounds and tidal life, joining household survival to a wider coast. That inheritance now depends on repeated skilled maintenance. Shafts must stay clear, plaster and cisterns must be repaired, lanes must remain narrow enough to shade the walls. A Windcatcher proves its value when a family below feels air move through the room. Without clear shafts, sound plaster, stored water, and practiced repair, the skyline is only a shell. A landscape almost impossible to cross has become one of Madagascar's strongest wildlife defenses. At Tsingy de Bemaraha, needle-sharp limestone, deep fissures, caves, and shafts break the ground into barriers that keep much of the interior beyond easy reach. The stone began as limestone deposited in an ancient sea. Weakly acidic rain then widened its joints over immense spans of time. The local name, Tsingy, is commonly understood as a place where no one can walk barefoot. Exposed edges can damage footwear and equipment. Yet this severe terrain creates shelter. Hot, dry pinnacles rise beside cooler, wetter crevices, dividing habitats across remarkably short distances. Forests, caves, river gorges, and mangroves support different communities of plants, reptiles, birds, and lemurs. The Manambalo River, provides one of the few natural corridors through the limestone. Human access is deliberately narrow. Suspension bridges, ladders, and fixed routes concentrate movement instead of opening the whole stone interior to disturbance. World Heritage listing in 1990 protected both the stone barrier and the ecosystems behind it. But inaccessibility cannot stop fires, climate stress, or pressure on surrounding forests. Its sharp interior is strongest where its edges remain intact. Disturb the forests and river approaches, and lemurs and forest birds lose the refuge the limestone created. These homes survive because their builders removed rock instead of raising walls against the desert. At Maymand in Iran's Kerman province, multi-room quiches were carved directly into soft volcanic material, placing thick stone between families and punishing heat, cold, and wind. Low entrances reduce exposure, and thick rock steadies indoor temperatures. Soot-darkened ceilings, hearths, niches, storage spaces, and animal areas show that these remain working homes. The permanent village is only one station in a larger landscape. Families historically moved with the seasons among quiche, garden plots, and mountain pastures. Water, temperature, and grazing decided when shelter changed. This semi-nomadic rhythm joined architecture to routes across arid ground, and some quiches remain inhabited today. World Heritage status in 2015 recognized the whole cultural landscape, not rock rooms alone. The harder task is keeping a living practice from becoming an empty display. Younger residents may leave, and seasonal movement may decline. Tourism can bring income, but staged interiors cannot maintain hearths, drainage, paths, livestock, or gardens. Maymand reaches the next generation only if the carved homes remain part of that seasonal life. Preserved stone without practiced knowledge would save the shell and lose the inheritance. The largest living structure on Earth can turn white while still alive, making its warning easy to misread. It runs roughly 2,300 kilometers along Queensland, linking thousands of reefs, hundreds of islands and habitats, from mangroves to deep water. Yet this immense structure is built by tiny coral animals. Their calcium carbonate skeletons accumulate colony by colony, holding a vast habitat together. Much of each coral's energy comes from microscopic algae inside its tissue. When prolonged heat breaks that partnership, the coral expels the algae and the pale skeleton shows through. Bleaching does not mean immediate loss, but the coral is weakened, and recovery depends on how hard the heat strikes and how long the ocean waits before striking again. Repeated marine heat waves can shorten recovery. Cyclones, sediment-heavy runoff, fishing pressure, coastal development, and crown of thorns, starfish then press on reefs already spending their reserves. Protection therefore works on several fronts: zoning, cleaner water, scientific surveys, starfish control, and stewardship by traditional owners whose sea country knowledge predates the marine park. But an enormous protected boundary cannot stop heat moving through the coral sea. The reef records global pressure while local hands fight for recovery. Bleached coral can recover, but not if the next heat wave arrives first. Local stewardship can strengthen recovery. Only climate action can preserve the time recovery requires. A railway bridge more than a century old still carries daily trains straight into a vertical alpine cliff. The Landwasser Viaduct rises about 65 meters, runs 140 meters, and bends across 6 masonry arches before entering the Landwasser Tunnel. That curve is not decoration. Confined terrain forced the Albular Railway to align the track across a deep valley and meet the tunnel inside the cliff. Engineer Alexander Akatos treated the mountain as one connected problem. Tunnels, spirals, gradients, and viaducts had to work together, or the line could not hold a workable grade. At the start of the 20th century, crews raised local stone with temporary supports and lifting gear high above the river before modern cranes and road access. The masonry supplied mass. Precision supplied the line. Human endurance joined both under alpine frost, water, and height. But age never stopped working against the bridge. Daily vibration, moisture, and frost slowly reached places the arches could not reveal. A major renovation in 2009 renewed waterproofing and the trackbed, then repaired masonry joints while rail service continued through much of the work. Its endurance is no miracle. Landwasser survives because each generation accepts the hidden labor required to carry this railway forward. This white hillside survives only because warm water keeps rebuilding the ground that footsteps wear down. Across a rise of 160 meters, calcium-rich springs have laid down terraces and petrified cascades for thousands of years. The work is chemical and continuous. Thermal water reaches the surface carrying dissolved calcium bicarbonate. As it cools and releases carbon dioxide, calcium carbonate settles out. Layer after layer builds rims, channels, and shallow pools. Where water stops, deposition stops too, and dry terraces can darken. Above them, Hierapolis grew around the same springs as a Greco-Roman and Byzantine spa city. Baths, streets, temples, and a theater tied mineral water to centuries of healing traditions. 20th century pressure broke that balance. Hotels, roads, uncontrolled bathing, and unrestricted walking damaged the surface and pushed dirt into limestone that forms in fragile films. The response was physical, not symbolic. After World Heritage listing, intrusive buildings were removed, access was reorganized, and barefoot routes concentrated movement away from vulnerable rims. Managers rotate spring water among sections because brightness depends on active flow. Each channel must balance mineral growth against tourism and a limited spring supply. Pamukkale passes forward only when disciplined access gives mineral water room to keep building. I reach a plain conclusion. Fame does not protect a wonder. It can increase the load on it. Protection begins when a reef, village, glacier, or railway is treated as inherited ground, with limits that hold when profit pushes the other way. That means funding rangers and research, repairing stone, timber, and track, defending migration routes, keeping local knowledge with the communities that built it. The next generation will not judge this age by the images it collected. It will judge the condition of what it received. Every guarded path, restored terrace, fishing rule and wind catcher carries the same message. Inheritance is active work. The power of this era will be measured not only by what humanity can build or reach, but by what it can hand forward intact. If this idea matters, follow the next documentary on places where memory, engineering, and nature still depend on careful stewardship. Attention should leave more than images. It should strengthen what remains.